Good day. Hello. Oh, I'm discombobulated. My apologies. Connie, hello. How you doing? Sound okay? Yep, that's good. Time with the sun in the stream. Oh yeah, I need light, don't I? Let's fix that part. I forget about the light. There you go. That changes the behavior of that. If you hear barking at all on the mic, the dogs are not very settled right now. They are having a rough couple of days. So, just letting you know, if you hear dogs barking, I'm not neglecting them. I'm just I can't go out every time they bark because yesterday they were barking for pretty much the entire day. So yeah, I've not had a settled couple of days. They have to be separated right now. So I'm okay. A bit flustered to start with, but we'll see. Junicus, good morning. How are you doing? We'll see how this goes. Okay. Good. Okay. Did I not delete that yesterday? If I'd have deleted that. Okay. Oh, I rolled it back, yeah. Change principal extensions. It needs to go away. Do anything. Okay. Well, actually, that would. Hold on. If I make that public string, public GUID tenant identifier. If I do it that way, I go back here. I could still use this extension method. And today, what you're working on, what part of the Agile program, you're going to start doing some UI. I'm not going to start doing some UI specifically. What I'm going to work on is producing this data into a view-friendly format. Thank you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the data from the tenant management. I'm going to take the data and publish it to Kafka. I'm going to take the data from the ticket system and the planning items and produce them to Kafka. And kind of think about what that schema might look like in a read-friendly manner on the other side. So I'll bring up the diagram in a minute, but I think at this point everyone understands what I'm about to do. If you've watched this for more than a few minutes, then you know exactly what the diagram looks like. Okay, so if we do that, and I do that, let's not make the same mistake again, eh? Oh, I can just do get tenant identifier. I actually wasn't looking at Blazerdex, I was looking at some ebooks. I was looking at that. Because obviously this is now getting to the point where I really should start considering what does it mean to put this in the cloud, right? I was looking at that one specifically. Last month it was updated. I don't know. Yeah, edition 8, updated to Core 8. So it would be naive to right to not consider UI at all. You know, I was actually watching one line yesterday, building his finance management app, and like the struggles of what it means to do UI, and he's focusing very much on accessible UI as well, which is the right thing to do, but just brought home the challenges that are going to come with that task. Concentrating business logic without concern to the UI so you can solve the problem. Yeah, because I think for me, the API side of things, there's some things I don't understand about what I want to do in there. There's some tools and practices I want to work out, and I think I can work them out without concern for what it looks like, because I can visualize, right? I can imagine the pieces that I'm talking about enough to move forward. But the moment I start focusing on UI, that gets a little harder, and taking it in those vertical slices poses a big challenge because I'm one person. So when it comes time to do the UI part, I would hope the stories are more along the lines of put these pieces together, build this API endpoint for query, or build this GraphQL query or whatever, depending on how I do this piece, right? So I think solving some of these problems with how the data flows, what pieces I want to happen when things happen, I can solve all of them without actually putting a UI on it. And then I can give the UI, I mean, those are going to be some tough streams to do because UI is not my strong point, right? Maybe that's the point at which I try to reach out to people who do know about accessibility, who do know about UI UX, and try and include them. You can do a lot with a lot of automation. I've thought of how that would work. I'm trying to do that recently. Yeah. Using if I could get it flowing correctly, I could use the HTTP stuff to make a bunch of sample requests, right? I could actually do some integration testing with those pieces here, run all these requests and validate the data gets there, and I can do all those. I can do all the back-end stuff, and I probably do need to focus on automation testing. Yeah, UI earlier lets me do more interactive tests. It does. I mean, I have to jump through a bunch of hoops, right? There is, I know there is a way with Postman, right? But I can script stuff out, right? I can, if I use testing tools, I can capture, right, the token that comes back. I can authenticate and do those sorts of things. So integration tests are going to have to be something I tackle. Okay, so I'm going to leave this in here. I'm not going to use it right this second, but this obviously now wraps up. I mean, it still makes the same calls internally, right? It still does all the same things internally, but it gives me one object to deal with that I can actually pull all the information from. Yeah. No, I'm not using SQLite. This is all SQL Server. Come on, dogs, settle down. Yeah, test containers. I have looked at a little bit. That is definitely something I need to. That sort of stuff. What I want to do is I want to do a little bit of research ahead of stream. You know, as you know, I've never been one for necessarily shying away from doing things live. But I've learned over the years of doing the streaming part that if I just start doing that stuff on stream, interactivity will drop, viewers will drop, and it's not engaging. So what I'll do is I'll do a bit of pre-research so that I at least go in with some level of confidence in setting things up and doing that. So the test containers is definitely on the list of things to do. So let's add that. Let's add, that was the claims principle. So add Get user profile, extension method, and object. Provide. Uses a drop engagement and drop. You call me, I know things very well. That's streaming. I mean, I've streamed to 0 people for many hours. And sadly, it is the case of if you want to do something you want to do, sometimes not everyone wants to do it, and that's why I don't do bot dev, by the way. A lot of bot dev. I mean, I've done some recently, but that's because I've got it to a point where I don't have to do the low-level parts. But bot dev becomes just such a grind. And, you know, I think people want to see things working. It's like a whole entertainment thing, right? If you look at Saito streams, right? The times when people are most engaged is when they're just, you know, to mess around with the dog, with the bot. I was going to say dog then, but with the bot and stuff, right? And there's a conversation flowing because there's something to engage with. When he's just doing game dev, then it doesn't. That's why it gets very few lines done. I did that for a project and it works super well. Frankly, you can do unit tests with your endpoints too. You can set contests and test them with unit tests. Yeah, I'll give that I'm going to give test containers a solid run. Bot dev and lib dev, dry stuff. Because you're only streaming for a certain amount of time. Even the people who are interested in those components can't necessarily engage fully with what you're doing. Like even this is stuff that I spend, if you look at what I do on the stream, I'm actually trying to spend more time talking about how it's going to flow rather than actually doing the coding. And I try and do as much coding off stream as possible, but that doesn't always work. But this is what people engage in, like, because you guys, you know, you can engage in the architectural discussions, you can engage in the design discussions a lot better and a lot easier than you, and, you know, practices and principles over the actual lines of code. So it is what it is. I mean, that's streaming. But this is application development, and this is kind of why I'm streaming it, right? So okay, to provide one object for all that's kind of an unnecessary thing. Obviously, it's wrapped up in claims principle, but now I've got something easier to pull the object out into. So I'm going to leave it there because that's still kind of going to come back to bite me at some point. At some point, I'm going to need to know who did something, and it's not going to be natural to pass that through, and we'll hit that challenge. So the problem with creating that object now is the later on that might be all I see as far as a solution. Whereas if I didn't have it there, I'd have to think about the solution. So, okay, so ticket promotion service. There's a way of doing this. View directory. There we go. Source. Tickets application. Tickets domain. Tickets infrastructure. Tickets concerning tickets. Yeah, that. Promote ticket to planning item created interim HTTP service for promotion. Disconnect. Ticket. Notifying. Planning. Bye. Hey Delta, good morning. How's it going? Bye. Event. I don't need to. Again, I don't need to worry too much about. Accept. Promoted by identifier instead of created by. For readability. Again, I'm worrying about something that I'm going to get rid of. I've got to start. I have a habit of when I stand, I shake my legs, but I'm shaking the desk and I can see the desk moving, which is going to start to create a sway on the camera. So I apologize if it moves. I'm trying to get out of the habit. Update scripts. Update scripts to provide new capture. Yep. Think of it as you are not get rid of, and more that you move upon eventually. It'll make it seem less of a bad thing. Yeah, it's definitely something that, well, it's something that has to go, right? It just through reasons of the application just doesn't function properly where I intend if I keep it that way. So. Oh yeah. Was okay. So let's. Oh yeah, I forgot to do a thing today, didn't I? I know that you guys know I'm here, but you have to remember to advertise in case. Only advertising 2 Discords. Okay, so I need to push that. No, I need to. Again, it's just one of those things where I need to spend some time doing general maintenance stuff and things like that, and I don't have very much time off of stream to do very many things. So when I do get a chance, I sit down and do this as much as I can. But doing things like bot and stuff just doesn't. I need to tighten up my bot, make sure the webhook stuff works, pull those pieces in, build a version of the bot that actually uses the webhooks, and then I can run that in a container somewhere. Okay. So that's pushed. So let's go to the other side now. So I'm gonna get this merged. Well, look at line 24. Is that right? No, it's not, is it? But it's talking about talking about that, isn't it? That's not. That's not the style, is it? Initialize a new instance element with a name and the parameter that call. Oh, okay, that's why. Is that what it wants? How does that meant to work now? Hold on. What am I doing wrong there? I'm name message. Oh, it just needs. Oh, that should work because that's a name of. Parameter name, user identifier. It's not declared in the argument list. You know, I didn't even think about that one. Name of the parameter. That was filled in. Thank you. That's me trusting. Oh, that does it. Okay. So that's user identifier. But that can't be. How is that? How does that work and the other one doesn't? And what does that even mean? Argument null exception. So why is this one not complaining? I know why. Because this one is going first to default. This can be outright null. Just the way it's behaving, right? It doesn't matter because it's more correct to do it this way. Null reference exception should be not. Yeah. This is linting, right? Argument null. They're throwing separate exceptions. It doesn't matter at this point. It doesn't matter what I do here. I'm just trying to guard against the fact that my claims token is incorrect. Right, this one works. Again, that param name email null not found. That's not going to do anything. That's interesting. the purpose of this is to make sure that I cannot get into an endpoint and not have valid credentials, right? That's why it's throwing exceptions. So it will blow up. This would not be caught by anything in my code. I would not put try catches around this code. I would literally let it bubble straight up and prevent. It just made me realize I haven't used this sort of stuff explicitly because it's just not something I do very often. I don't worry about the exceptions manually in my code very often. It's just in this instance, I need to make sure that I don't return empty values and try and call code. This should blow up. But it's not asking for a string. That's the problem. Oh, there you go. Okay. No, it's the parameter user identifier is not declared in the argument list. But there is no argument list, so hold on. Parameter. Like, I want to understand it, right? I don't want to just bubble forward because it's I'm not the only one. My bet is, so if we go into argument not exception, no, because it would be throwing a fit on the other one as well. Right down to exception. So there's nothing specific about it. There's nothing specific about, because that's not declared in the argument list. That's the same layout, right? The only difference is this is a GUID and that's a string, right? If I make that an empty string, it'll probably work. It'll probably stop complaining at me. But it doesn't make any sense because if it's null, I don't have anything anyway. It's solo lint. Yeah, it's solo lint complaining. It works here as well, right? If it's a string, it's fine. That's invalid because it's a GUID. So I'm going to get the name. I'm going to put user identifier. User identifier not found is what I was going to say. And it's because I'm using, this is just a grid pass. If I take this out, actually, hold on. Right, if I do that, they'll stop complaining. Yeah, it's all wrong. It's all very wrong. Because this is this is Copilot helping me out, right? And just me blindly not thinking through this exception handling, right? Because in my mind, oh, it's exception handling, but it's actually wrong because that's going to say tenant identifier null, not found. Is essentially what I should do. Can I do? Can I guard that differently? If I guard it differently, then because that's what I'm really throwing a fit on, right? I'm throwing it on this exception, on this thing. But again, that's null. So what does it mean for that to be there, right? Let's have a look. Please tell me I don't have to upgrade. Let's do this. Void do I think. String my name equals null. If my name is null, throw new argument exception. My name is null. Right. So if we do a thing. What? Did you want what? Really? A bug in link pad? No. I'm not wrapping try catches around those. I want them to bubble up and fail. I'm going to leave that as is. But I do need to. I do need to do a try catch. Oh, it might be okay. Oh, dogs, please stop. I'm gonna spend tons of time. Argument exception. Hi there, Issa. So hold on. That's better guard code. That's much better guard code. Thank you for the suggestion. Yeah, that's much cleaner. Again, that's the challenge as someone who does not believe in throwing exceptions everywhere, so just lets it be and worries about handling later. For oftentimes, right? In this instance, I don't want to get any deeper into my code, so I do need to throw an exception of some form. That's funny. Okay, I'm going to create an item. This is kind of general. This is a sort of item goes to die in backlog sort of thing. Hope you're well, sir. Oh. Settle down, dog. Settle down. Okay. That's a positive change. Improve exception throwing in claims principle. Okay. Push. What are we doing today? We are going to do something different today. We're going to tackle something that I'm trying to just get this cleared off my plate. Hi, Tentic. How you doing? Okay, so let's go back to this. Let's go to hub of Git. Here. Let's go to github.com. Develop Liquid Sky. Let's go make a PR for that. That's been a long time coming. That goes into development. Anytime today. Yeah, 55 files. Create a PR. Okay, so I'm not gonna bore everyone with a full review of this. That's me improving the verbosity of the logging, so I'm not worried about that. Yeah, it's in the dot settings. Scripts, blah 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 blah. File rename without changes. Yep, that's fine. All new files, new files, new files. Promotion. So we were testing the promotion yesterday, so I'm pretty happy. Stress testing my Spotify overlay. Seems like my Spotify connection gets terminated every hour, so now I'm waiting a full hour to see my code automatically reconnect successfully when it disconnects. So basically a waiting game. That would make sense if Spotify disconnects it. Socket timeouts, etc. I can't do that because I'm the owner. Back up to the top, back here. I'm going to merge this. Obviously, I accept that. Ooh, no, we have test failing. Ooh. Bad developer. What failed? Nothing failed. One failed. So we had a failure when ticket has already been promoted. What? When ticket is your what? Turning. Oh, hold on. That'll be why. Gotta check out the right branch. That's why. You're on the right branch, things will behave differently. I bet I have a failure now. There you go, one failure. Okay, so we expect invalid and we got okay. So this allowed this through. So the ticket has already been promoted. So what this is this ticket has this is the downside for using these dynamic objects for this object builder. So this object builder allows me to build objects as if they're in the database, so that when I query them, they get pulled out. But it relies upon perfect name matching, so it's a little flawed, right? So this needs a promoted by user identifier, right? And this should go there, right? So the user identifier and the created by user identifier should be different, right? That's what I'm trying to make clear there. That they're not necessarily one and the same. So let's run that test. There we go. Okay. That's exactly why you have GitHub Actions. Because otherwise I would have merged the problem in there, lost track of that, yeah. Yeah, just expected the lib I use to handle the connection automatically, but I guess not. Depends on how low level some things are, right? Some things are nice abstractions and do a lot of hand holding. You know, it's kind of mine and Canny's approach to the bot stuff, right? Canny's is very much here here's all the tools you need to build the bot, but also you are still in the works. And mine is, don't worry about it. I'll give you the message. What do you want to handle? Right? So it's different opinions or different approaches to how you would actually handle those components. So in that case, it just sounds like the lib you're using is just giving you a connection and that's it. No frills. I heard my name. Just saying different approaches to how to provide a library and features. Temtic is saying that the library they're using for the Spotify overlay is it doesn't handle the reconnect. Configure promoted by user identifier in test. Push that now. Now something that calls the API every 10 seconds to fetch the current plain song, and if I get an exception for not being authenticated, I reconnect again. Seems reasonable. Now are they okay with that sort of, I mean, I know that's not heavy traffic, but is that an acceptable? I suppose, yeah, because you're asking for the currently playing song, so that makes perfect sense. Okay, so let's go see this now. Let this build out, the test pass, and then we'll get to the actual design part of the stream. So for anyone who is joining, that has been waiting for me to do something with Kafka, now's the time. Now's the time I'm going to do some Kafka stuff, right? I gotta remember when I set up the YouTube stream, YouTube does not automatically remember the playlist, so I have to go and add the playlist afterwards because I've just talking about music and stuff and playlists. Yeah. Apex, good morning. Hope you are well. Confirm the merge. Delete the branch. Okay, so let's go back over here and fetch. Let's update development. Actually a lot of changes. 72 files changed. Let's delete that branch now. I don't like having the branches left around. So, you know, good or bad. I've merged it, it's done. I don't like leaving it lying around because I'm unorganized. So that's just kind of a practice I'm following where I'm getting rid of the branch immediately. I'm now starting to realize that work is the Shadow Realms almost. I might be being slow, but that was I didn't dawn on me. You're at work, so the Shadow Realms is work. Okay. Let's type. So let's talk about Kafka. Let's talk about data promotion. So right now I have this application structure where I have an API, I can send data in. Right now I can get some data out. The application processes things and deals with the domain and adds data into my system. But this is very much all about capturing that data, right? It's not necessarily about viewing that data at this point. Now, if I want to build a UI on top of this, it is simple to come in here and add some endpoints for get. Tickets does have some stuff, right? I can get tickets, I can list tickets, etc. Which I'm not entirely sure that's working, but yeah. So I can get those things. But my database right now is not necessarily optimized for the reading. So I come along and I want to start querying that data. Well, I'm going to start adding queries in here, right? So my application is going to start seeing queries appear. And for tenant users or tenants, etc., queries. And those queries are going to say, hey, go and get this data from the database and present it in a view model. So now view models become part of this. But I have another option, right? And that is very much a view-focused data store. And that data store will collect all this information in a read-only manner. Read-only from the API perspective, not read-only from the incoming perspective, right? But so as data is created, it flows and is stored in a read-optimized or read-optimizable view. That way I can build APIs. I can build one API, or I can use GraphQL or whatever I want to use. I can use other technologies to query the data without muddying the waters of the actual behavior of the application, right? Because view is never the behavior. Do I believe that? No, view is never the actual business behavior. View is I need to see this information. That is just a requirement. That's a business requirement, not an actual rule, right? So what I want to tackle, and this could end up as a pure experimental. This could end up as actually, okay, I actually think this is going to work. But either way, it's going to flex Kafka. So right now we have tickets and planning items. Right. Let's create, at this point, let's create a new... What was the tool that someone mentioned? I think, was it you, Junicus, that mentioned a tool that I could install as a Docker container? Or was it, who was that? I want something a little bit more. This is really unreliable at this point using the browser mode. Excalidraw. What is that? I've seen it mentioned in several streams now. Oh, that's just that's drawing. Oh no, I can chart with it. You can have them in a docking container. It's another whiteboard, I think. Okay. Okay. So let's use this for this second. Right, more tools. Wireframe to code. That'd be awesome. Okay. Maybe I'll look into that off stream. But let's see if we can get some productivity here. So I have planning. I have ticketing. Again, I should rename that, I think, right? Ooh. What did that do? Okay, now that's attached. So I have ticketing and planning right now. And I have tenant management. People that use this get really fast with the shortcuts. Okay, I can see that. I'm starting to see. I'm seeing the numbers up top, right? So, right this second, do I need to draw this at all? I don't need to draw this at all. This produces. I'm going to do a blend of hitting the keyboard and type and using the mouse. This produces. Right now, it produces tenant users, and it produces tenants. This produces nothing. This produces nothing. Let's say I want to produce planning item out of this and out of this. I want to produce a ticket. Right this second. Actually, we need more than that. Notes is a bit broken right now, but ultimately the notes, right? So these will be produced out of these individual pieces, right? So when these get added, and actually, in reality, what I need to make this complete is actually users. Now, right now, obviously, my schema is going to align very closely. The read schema is going to align very closely with my write schema because I'm very early on in this process. But if you've worked in any level of software, what you'll have seen is that over time, new demands come in, and it means, oh, let's just use that data in that database, or that table and that table, right? Let's pull the data from these tables and make a view, or you know, there's oftentimes little, pardon me, concern given to how quick something will be initially, but then there's a lot of focus when it doesn't perform as quickly as it needs to do. The problem is now you've changed your write database for your read demands. If you have the option, you could actually reorganize your read database, especially if you're using views. You can actually reorganize your read database to distribute the data differently, or even create a new view, especially using something like Kafka, where I can now say, okay, well, go and yep, no worries, Tentic. Good luck with your sockets. Thank you for stopping by. Appreciate it. You could essentially go and say, go and create a new view of this for this purpose, right? So once this starts being a thing, it can flex and grow as it needs, right? If we need a new system to do reporting, you could do that. You've got some seeding concerns, right? Because you don't have the data immediately, so you do have to seed that data somehow. But once you get past that and you turn it live, then it just flows. And you only need to build one data pipeline per component to actually export the data in a manageable form. Are you going to write a worker that activates from a Kafka entry to massage the data for a view? I'm going to create a consumer that pulls the data in, and it could listen to all the events, or it could listen to some of the events, whatever. Store it in a database. So the way this looks, right, is so do this 6. This. Control G. And right. These essentially get listened to by consumer, right? Now, okay, the consumer could be one service, it could be many services, etc. But then we go and it's not a modeling tool, so it's not like I have a database to work with here. Kind of define shapes and eventually. Oh, that's not fun. Either way, you get the point, right? So we pull these are Kafka events. So Kafka. So these come out as Kafka events, which I have the mechanism in there for already. I can do all this. I have the eventing to know these things happened. I just need to promote them to Kafka for these pieces. But then this consumer will pull the data and store it in a database, right? Now that database, right, the second, like I said, is going to look kind of familiar. It's just going to look like all these things put in one database, right? But now I can build indexes around that. I can build queries around that. I can query, get me all planning items that came from tickets because I know the source ticket ID. So I can pull all that information. I can do that from a view. Now the ticketing and planning don't need to know about each other necessarily. The planning doesn't need to know about the tickets data. Things like notes and stuff from the view perspective, I can say, oh, these are the notes for the ticket. So let's go and pull the ticket notes. Because again, planning item notes are their own thing. So I can build my UI based off of this data store and not these data stores independently. Because the problem becomes that these become difficult to manage from a query side, because when you're going to pull data, you have to pull data from many sources at once. This at least gives me one source to pull from. So whenever I'm asking for data, I'd be interested, does anybody have any thoughts or opinions on this piece? Now, yeah, no message is lost, yeah. Now, I kind of, on the YouTube stream card, I kind of alluded to the fact that you might consider this overkill, right? You might consider this a little bit more a little bit heavier than it needs to be at this point, right? Because I don't have an application, right? I don't have anything to build on, so why am I worrying about this future optimization? You know, working on Yagni, right? You ain't going to need it. Well, I am going to need it because I intend on this being an application that does scale. This solution doesn't cost me anything, right? If I was doing this, let's say I wanted to get a product to market in 6 months, right? I don't do any of this. I just write code and dump code in and dump code in and dump code in and dump more code in and make it work and do a display and get a UI working, and I promote it out the door. And I get 50 users in the first 6 months after that, right? And the 6 months after that, I get 200 users. Now I've got some scaling issues. Now I've got some challenges of what do I do with the software, right? I can't fix it. I can't go back and now re-architect it because now I've got a dependency, right? I've got all these users that are using the system, and now it's costing me dear time, and I don't want to invest that time anymore. Did I consider a different type of DB? Yes. And the beauty of this is I can still choose that option. Event store might be a little bit excessive because I'm not chaining these together from events. But this is the challenge of Kafka and eventing, right? So I have a planning item, right? I'm going to publish a planning item. I'm going to have a source of where it came from. Like if it got published from X component or Y component, it's going to tell me what component published it, but it's not going to tell me, you know, the name changed or whatever. Now, if I want to figure that out, I could do, right? I could look at the previous version, do a diff, and say, hey, these fields changed. And the benefit of this system is now I have that option, right? I can actually have multiple consumers pull these records, and I can have one system doing a diff while the other one just stores the data. So if you go into an object, you say, hey, what changed? It says, calculating that right now, right? But so I have the option of changing out the data store technology here does not matter, right? Yes, it will be a relational database right now, but I could store it in any way, shape, or form, right? I can still distribute this data differently because I'm going to put a different API on this, right? So there's, you know, write APIs in front of these pieces. And a read API, I suppose, in front of this piece, right? So it gives me the option of using whatever database technology I want here, whatever storage technology I want here. I don't affect the main storage or the behavior of the application. All the business rules are applied. And then the view can pull off of this. And I can put GraphQL on this. I can experiment with different ways of viewing the data. But I now don't have to go and ask 4 different, or, you know, there's going to be more, right? There's going to be teams. There's going to be all sorts in this. So I'd be interested in anyone's if anyone has any pitfalls, any challenges, any things that I need to think through that I'm not kind of currently seeing. I don't consider myself very naive in this stuff, right? I have done enough of this stuff to know what I'm trying to achieve. So the consumer is the one storing all the data, even the local data of each top slice. Consumer is the one storing all the data. Well, this could be, right? This could be one to many, right? This could be many consumers. I can split this out. I can scale this load. This doesn't have to go into one data store. These are Kafka events essentially, and this stores them. Well, this pulls them out and stores them, right? And it can make sure that it receives the message. It doesn't have to. Now, it would also be responsible for idempotency, however you pronounce it, right? So right now you have a DB, no, because that is a write database, right? There's still databases, right? These still have their own database, data stores, right? This is the API, right? So let me, suppose this is where we get into the, right? So the application layer here stores its data. It publishes events, right? I can probably remove these and say this is kind of a Kafka layer, right? And then this is right. So the application layer, APIs come in, right? And again, from the outside, it would actually look more like let's do it this way: APIs. Okay, when I asked about the other DB that was on those, was thinking of an event store for the writes and they get consumed. Okay, right. Sorry, my apologies. Yeah, so an event store there, that is potential, right? I can still experiment with those pieces. And the beauty of doing it this way is I can actually still experiment with those pieces later on. I don't have to answer that right now. The problem with the event storing stuff, so if we go back to the application, the problem is making sure that I understand how those technologies work. Because if you think about it, I actually do have almost, he says he looks at the weakest possible example. Tenants, commands, use cases, users, commands. That's the best example I have. Actually, probably nothing strong enough yet. Well, this will break, but anyway, the idea of these are kind of publishing those domain events. So kind of event sourcing is possible in here. I don't see why this is a bad thing. It's very disconnected. So here's the thing: will it be slow? Slow in as far as data. Okay. Will it be slow? What is slow? Slow would be, first thing for a use case. I go and I say, hey, I want to add a ticket. That ticket, when I add it, should be added into the backlog, right? So I hit save on the ticket, right? The UI updates. The UI has some of those ticket details, so you can still make an optimization on the client side to create a placeholder on the UI. That data gets promoted, gets put into the system, gets into that database. Now we're talking within milliseconds that data's hit Kafka. As long as the Kafka system is scaled correctly, it's another write. So I would imagine within 100 milliseconds, all data is present in the read database that was in the write database, right? I mean, there's another option as well. There's a mirror, right? I could create a read-only mirror of each database, but then that becomes, again, I have to then create APIs that read the mirrors. So you could make a UI optimization to make sure that there is a ticket placeholder there and it has the title, because you've got the title, you just sent up that. And then when you click on the ticket, you go and load the data, right? And that data by that point, unless that user is amazingly fast, that's within, what, a second, 2 seconds, at which point that there's no issue with that speed, right? Now, Kafka's built for processing billions of messages when it's scaled out, right? So as long as my strategy for scaling is valid, then I shouldn't have an issue there. So I'm going to consume 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 topics, right? I'm going to start 6 tasks per consumer right now, and I want to make sure I have a throughput of, let's say, 500, 600 messages a second. I probably need, I could either, I don't know. So Kafka, I really try and save locally. Save to this. Read layout. Can you throw consumer instances to improve performance on that? Okay, so the way Kafka works, can I create a new? Oh, okay. So the way Kafka works is Kafka has probably safer. Oh no, it just opens in that. Nice. Okay. How do I do this? So Kafka has topics, right? A topic is a queue. Think of it as a queue, right? And that queue can be partitioned, right? So if I want to P0, right? I'm just trying to make sure I think about how to describe this properly so I don't screw this up, right? Right. I have consumers. If I want one consumer, let's make that consumer. I want to process messages in here. Then I'm subscribing to the topic and I have consumer. So one partition will give me one message at a time. So I can create as many instances of my consumer as I want, but it's just going to round robin these, right? Because it's going to feed them all one, right? Now that's pretty fast, but it's not scalable, right? Because it means that if I now need to get more throughput, then my topic is limited by this. So you can't scale topics, you can't scale partitions on a topic after. It's a part of your design. So let's say I want to be able to process 2 messages at a time. I make sure this has 2 partitions, right? Now, this is assuming this consumer group. So consumers work in consumer groups. So one consumer group will be handled by Kafka at once. So if I have 2 consumer groups listening to the message, they'll both get the message in almost the same time. So if I'm processing to 2 different systems, that isn't a challenge if I only have one partition, because the message throughput will be relatively quick, right? But now if I need to have more throughput, right, I make sure this scales to 2 partitions, right? Now, when you go into Kafka Cloud, etc., you're paying for the number of partitions, not necessarily the topic, because the topic is kind of a generalization and the partitions of the data. And you can design your partitions to say, okay, data that has this identifier in it goes in this partition, data that goes in it has this partition. So if you actually wanted to, for a given topic, you could say, okay, well, if it's US, I want 6 partitions. If it's South America, I want 3 partitions. If it's, Europe, I want 8 partitions, right? You can actually partition your data in such a way that you can organize that. The strategies and stuff you can put in place. I don't need to worry about that sort of stuff. I don't think that is going to be something that I wouldn't have to concern myself with much later. So I'm not panicking about that. But if I want more throughput in Kafka, I make sure that my partitions will take it, right? Now this is per topic. So in this instance, tenant users is a topic, tenants is a topic, users is a topic. So if I make sure these all scale with 4 partitions, then I can potentially process 4 messages in one go, right? If I scale the number of consumers, right? So now this consumer is sat there, and it's just going to take whichever message is up next, and then this is going to share these 2 partitions against these 3 consumers. So they will process, but I'm not getting the true throughput of the actual system because it's being constrained by 2 partitions. So if I add P2, right? So now I've got 3 partitions, then I will get 3 messages at once processed, right? As long as I have 3 consumers. If I don't, if I take these away and only have 1 consumer, then I'm kind of wasting the system a little bit because it's just going to go, and you are guaranteed ordering within a single partition, within a topic. You are not guaranteed ordering within across partitions in the same topic. So message 1, message 2, message 3, right? Again, if these are processing differently, if the same record, the same tenant comes in, right? If I'm doing this, then, for the same identifier, I believe it will end up on the same partition. Once it's placed something in a partition, it will always place that thing in the same partition, I think. So I believe that's the case. So overall, in terms of performance, as long as I say, and there's some best practices, right? If I say there's 6 partitions, even if I stick 1 consumer on there right now, I'm not going to saturate the system, but I can scale into that pretty well. And if later on 6 partitions is getting a struggle, I might want to do this because I'm trying to get as much throughput as possible. I'm connecting multiple consumers, right? But it's part of the strategy. It's kind of what I'm going for there. So in terms of speed, if I design my partitions correctly here, and again, from a development perspective, I can even get a feeling for that performance, right? And this is why something like OpenTelemetry is going to be key to me, is because I want those metrics, I want those numbers in the long term, or even in the short term. I want to start putting those layers in so that I actually get information on this message took 30 milliseconds to get there. So, yeah. So that's kind of what I'm aiming for, right? It's a lot of talking, but it's definitely worth something worth discussing. So, I mean, again, if anyone's new to the stream, if you're just joining and you're just hanging out, if you have any questions, thoughts, opinions on what I'm doing, I'm more than happy to discuss this. Have I done this before? To some extent, yes, I have. This specific design where I'm having write and read, not exactly. This is something that I'm going to try. I believe, from my perspective, it makes a lot of sense because now I can build this view database and I can start putting a UI on this and see how that feels, right? So I'm just looking because my dog is fussing again. So I think this is reasonable. I think this is a reasonable approach. What I'm going to do, go to my general work. Yeah, I did that. 9. I've been trying to track work, but the reality is because some of this is a bit more flexible, it actually doesn't. It's funny, it kind of fits more in a waterfall approach, which is ironic considering what I'm trying to do. Just have the board off screen because it doesn't really make a difference as to what I'm doing here, but that was going to end on the 24th of January, that one. So it's taken me almost 3 weeks. This looks serious. So this is my fun. How you doing, Profits? Oh, not you. I'm not bad. I'm not bad. Sorry to hear you got a sore throat. It's going around, unfortunately. Come on, cameras. So when I look down to my left, it's because I have a camera on my dogs. They're currently in the living room. They are separated from one another right this second, and they're not settling. So I just got to keep an eye on them. Get themselves in trouble. Okay, so I think this. Let's make this actually a bit larger for readability. What was it people told you about using Kafka at this point? In what perspective? Don't mind me, I'm just having a bit of fun. You can be extra large. You can be extra large. And I'll see why Sky Draw is fun. So people do have opinions on how to use Kafka. No one's really given me any. You side the part of Kafka, you said something like that. There's different. So one of the things that I'm not trying to do is use Kafka as a message bus, right? Which is kind of a common use case. So some people might disagree on what I'm doing as kind of my events. That I definitely would have said. So people may disagree with the way I'm doing these pieces. Again, I only know what I know, right? I only know my way of using it, and I know that I know from experience, I do know this will work, right? For me, at least a is it 15? Start that now, and then now. View only. We create a remote users. This is kind of going to be an epic piece because I'm going to do several pieces. Now the idea sounds like is what they said that Kafka was heavy-handed. Oh, okay, yeah. So the reason I keep soliciting thoughts is if anyone because the natural opinion seems to be, when it comes to writing software, that you should do it in the simplest possible way the first time, right? And in general, I'm not opposed to the approach, but I think we take it a little bit too far. So you could argue that instead of worrying about all this is, to some people, this might seem like over-engineering, right? Because I don't have a product. I don't have anything. Yeah. So let's say I create an application. And I'm going to use my new favorite tool. Thank you for introducing me to this one. Let's say I create a new application, right? And application. And right, just has an API. And a database, right? And I put all the behavior in here, and I prove out what I need to prove out. Right? You can log in, you can create tickets, you can create planning items, you can create stories, you can go all through this, and I do this in 6 months. The product takes off. A year from now, you're looking at me owning my own business, building this thing, and stressing every single day because new customers get added. And as new customers get added, this gets stressed, right? I have to go into Azure and I need new instances. I need to scale some more. Oh, these aren't scaled wide enough. Okay, so I need to scale this up, right? And I just keep adding more resources, and I just keep trying to make this work. And as much throughput as I can, this database is getting overloaded. Okay, increase the instance size, etc., etc., etc. Right? I have no ability to say, okay, well, let's split out planning items now. Let's split out tickets now, because I've gone to production with a system that was built to prove the concept, but doesn't go beyond the concept. I could deliver this really cheap. But what does it do then? How do I, as a single developer, how do I make effective changes to this application? How do I build new features? How do I bug fix existing features? And how do I manage that workflow? So you could argue I could go something simple like that, right? And just do everything in one API. Don't worry about this over-architecting, right? That phrase bugs me slightly because it's not over-architecting when you've seen what happens when you do this. I'm not sure it's really heavy-handed. You know what you're going to do, a distributed system. So if your initial thing is that, then you know you need tools like Kafka. Right. But I'm not going to get a throughput. I'm not going to test Kafka. A year from now, I go live with version 1. And it attracts, let's say, it attracts 50 users in the first 2 months, right? They're not going to test Kafka. It's barely going to blip. Using this system is barely going to blip, even down to one instance, right? It's barely going to blip. But if that user growth takes off, if anything happens there, this doesn't scale quickly, right? And again, my resources are then taken solely on trying to dump more features in, because users, once users get stuff, they ask for more stuff, right? So how do I keep moving forward with the application if I'm stuck in, maintenance hell? I don't like using the word on stream, but my apologies. That's why I kind of paused halfway through saying it. So if I'm stuck in that maintenance world, how do I progress the application? I think it's more that since it's a hard thing to implement, then it's something to do later. And it is hard to implement, right? I mean, the infrastructure that I have to build to do this is way more complicated. But I can control features. And I can actually, right now, I could actually put feature flags in at the API level and just hide this and just expose this, but still build the infrastructure for everything. I can build a mobile UI. I can build a different UI, right? I can experiment with A/B testing, right? There's things I can do by doing this system that give me greater understanding in the long term, right? Because I could learn some lessons in doing this, right? But I worry, having seen what happens, that those lessons I learned, I never have time to apply without significant interruption to my customers. But if you know you can do it, then why not add it from the start unless it really stops you moving forward? I take that approach. To me, yes, this is complicated. From a cost perspective, if I go to Azure with this or AWS with this is not going to be cheap, right? I have to line people up. So I'm going to have to do some demonstrations and see if I can sell it to people before I even put it into those cloud-based infrastructures. And having talked with Deflux, a lot of this is infrastructure as a service, right? It's not platform, which is probably what I should be considering, because platform as a service will scale differently. But platform as a service comes with, or software as a service even, right? It becomes more challenging. So I'm really leaning into infrastructure here. Right. So I've worked with people, I've gone into this sort of stuff, and they're like, that's too complicated, right? Not this specifically, but I've worked enough with people to know that sometimes the things that I dream up are not necessarily the easiest thing to implement. Sometimes they are very hard. But I think from my perspective, this is the system I want. This is a system I can build with. This is a system I would bet that I could get anybody into the stream, as long as they're a C# developer, right? Even not, maybe, right? But I bet I could, within one stream, a 2-hour stream, get someone to add a feature into the actual code, right? Just by walking them through it and educating them on the components, right? I think I could do that. And I have confidence in myself for doing that, because it's not just I know the architecture, I know the infrastructure. It's that I feel that the layout is meaningful and reproducible. And I think that's a very big thing to focus on when you're writing software. It's not necessarily just, does it work? I think there's more measures. So there we go. There's some Kafka, there's some architecture, there's some reasoning. I guess I'm guarded. Well, I have to go. Where's Unicus? Oh, how was your breakfast yesterday, Barry? Did you enjoy that? Sorry, I know you said I have to go, but I hope you enjoyed your breakfast yesterday. I forgot about that. My apologies. Okay. Nice. I had a egg and cheese muffin and a croissant for breakfast, so one more coffee. So I'm gonna pancakes and waffles and strawberries. I like waffles. Waffles are good. I'm going to see how much I can take this, get the pieces of this starting to be working in the end of the stream. Wow. Did you move afterwards? How are you meant to work with all that? I'd just be sat at my desk just like, don't. I'm done. Good night. That's awesome. I've been caught napping before. I get caught napping for certain. I'd be fast asleep. I'm in a food coma. You didn't have to eat it all. but it was there. Oh dear. Okay, so this is okay, so we're gonna go in the world of, I'm going to need several stories in a flow here. So publish users to Kafka. Create a topic following the standard. We need a lot, but a little bit of everything. Yeah, that's what matters. Okay, I should probably share this on stream. Dime size waffles and pancakes. Who wasn't about? Okay, so you don't even want to know the image that just jumped into my head there. Like, ooh. Pick for users. Create subscriber to user created event. Publish to topic. Right. So the beauty of this is, once you see this, you're going to see that this is actually relatively simple to do. Right. So I'm going to create a branch. You know, now I've said that, by the way, I'm that's going to curse me. Feature T36, publish users to Kafka. Now the problem with what I'm about to do as well is that I'm going to have to branch off of branch off of branch off of branch to then come back around. Otherwise, I'm just going to make a mess here, right? I do want to do the stories independently, but merging them into dev, do I want to do it that way? It's not kind of complete. No, I'm going to do it that way. I'm going to do it that way, yeah. Okay, so publish users to Kafka. So tenant management is where I'm at, right? Users. So when I register a user, what happens is I have I need to create the user, and then in create, I have a domain event for user created, right? I do not have, I don't believe, any subscribers to user created. So if I go over here, go subscribers, user created, user created. So the way I've done this is I've actually created folders for the event type, and then I have the things that happen, because early on I definitely had a need where there was multiple things that could happen in response to a notification. There might be other things in the system, and I don't just want to have one tenant user was registered handler if there's multiple things that need to respond to that in the application in this domain, right? I want to break out those behaviors to keep them single responsibility. So by doing this, I'm creating a folder that represents the event, and then I'm going to give you an indicator of what it's going to do, right? And this is the publish integration, right? So this is going to go to Kafka. So if I go here, again, publish integration. So that's essentially a publish integration event. It really should be, right? This is a handler, and this is going to be user created. Why did I do that? Oh, yeah. Watch. Yeah. So what I'm going to end up with here is using user was created equals that's just a side effect of having the folder namespace the same way. not the most stunning design, but it does work. And for this purpose, I'd rather have this and have the multiple things that can happen than I would. And again, I only have one right now, but I don't want to set, again, I'm setting a standard, right? If you want a handler for a different thing, you can put it into this folder and track that event. So in here, this notification, and I'm using this for reference because it just makes sense, right? So I'm going to need my I repository of user, user repository, and what do I have? I event publisher. Right. Now in here, what I'm doing is I am going to go and pull the user and then publish this async, and I'll show that there's a lot of stuff that's pretty common in here, right? So I have the user, what is in the notification? The notification has user identifier, name, and email. Right. So I might not even need to pull this information right now. What does user actually contain? User has name, email, active, verified. So I probably do want to pull more information because the event I'm going to create, the integration event, right? So if I'm being clear here, create a topic, create a subscriber, create an integration event. So if Dota was watching this, Dota would be like, well, you're putting technical details into a story. I don't really have much of an option at this point. It's kind of the point of the story is very technical implementation. So I'm a little stuck. I don't like doing this. I don't like putting technical implementation in there. But I'm going to have to do this for tracking these things. So, and like everything, there's an exception to every rule, right? So, entity by identifier spec user, and this is going to be notification dot user identifier, right? So this is going to pull, using the GUID, it's going to pull that user out and give us the user, right? Event publisher, and here now we need an integration event. So right now I have messaging events. These are all my integration events, right? These are going to be global. It's going to be shared across all the systems. So if I'm being honest, this should be shared events or something like that. But again, I'm still trying to get my head around some of these quotes, right? User integration event. So again, this comes into, you know, what is the event here? The user was created, right? So do I publish user created? I could do, but using Kafka, I can promote this information. So if anyone's consuming this, even if they're a new consumer, they can get all the data they need, right? So they do have the ability to capture everything. If I publish user created, then maybe I just publish certain information, and then oh, user is active, then I just put user identifier active, and I kind of use those events. I can still stream those events, but then each topic is going to be either generally to a thing and have different data shapes on it, which schema tends to tell me that that's not the right way to do it. Or I'm going to publish one object that says, hey, this is why this is what you've got, this is the data you have, and here's why. Sorry, I'm trying to think through the different use cases here at the same time as trying to talk. My apologies. So this is right, a default integration event, right? And what this does is this allows me to track. That's nice. It knows what I'm talking about. So this is the thing that I'm going to use to tell me why I created this object, right? So I'm going to publish an integration event, and here's the reason. So you see here, name of, right? User was created. Right. Actually, did I? Hold on, let me make sure I am being consistent there. Right, okay. User created notification. Right. User integration event. So here's my user integration event, and here's why. Here's the source of where that came from, right? So because multiple things could trigger the need to say, hey, the user needs to change, right? If I change the email, that's a different event. I'm going to get email changed, and I'm going to do a publish integration. I'm going to do almost exactly the same thing here, but that event will be different, right? So I'm going to be able to track why something changed if I need to. So I can respond to certain changes. So let's go in here, right? Tenant does not have relevance here. Email user dot email verified equals user dot verified, right? So now this will publish the user. In theory, it won't actually, because I need to go and do this. So in here I have the lookup, and the publisher, what it will do is it will actually look at the type of the event I'm saying, and then go and map this to a topic. So I don't have to hard code any topics in my code. I can make this kind of dynamic, and I can change this, right, to that. And the name is going to be liquidsky.users. So then I will go over here to Kafka. Oh, you are starting 518. Connect. 5.1 has landed. 5.02. I think this application has some identity issues. So if I go over here, right, I don't believe I can zoom this UI, so my apologies. I don't think there's any way of increasing the size. Actually, let me offset Explorer. Bit of a better all around. If anyone fancies the challenge, I would say, hey, go and design a really good Kafka tool in .NET, because it does not exist. They're all Java. Mainly because the libraries that work with Kafka are Java. So I have topics, right? This is why it's important to do this, right? So when you create a topic, you set the partitions, replicas, etc. Wow, good morning. Hope you're well. A good day. So when you create a topic, you have to set the partitions. Now in development, one's going to be plenty. I'm never going to need more than one. There's no benefit in one. But there is a strategy to it. Look, the stream has been good. Enjoy it. Apex, thank you very much for the look. Appreciate it. Have a great day. That reminds me, Monday is a day off. I need to do a coding challenge on Monday, don't I? Okay. Sorry, I just remembered that random one. So yeah, Kafka. So you create your Kafka topic. You should create a Kafka topic beforehand. You can set it to auto create, but it will only ever create it with whatever defaults you have set on the server. So in this instance, I'm not going to need, from a development perspective, any more partitions, but it is part of your strategy. And if you're building with Kafka, you definitely want to make sure you consider your scaling needs, because you cannot edit this after the fact. You can only drop and recreate the topic, which, if you're using it for any sort of history, it becomes very risky. So this is going to be liquid sky.users. So we add that, right? Again, I only need one, so that's not going to be a problem. Fresh. So now, if I run the application, in theory, I should see a new user created if I register a new tenant. Now I'm looking back on my scribblings from Water Drink Water from the other week and thinking, yeah, Excalibur would have been an improvement, wouldn't it? So for anyone new to the stream, for anyone joining for the first time, the stream is not about productivity. It's about growth, learning, sharing ideas. Me mainly sharing ideas with the stream, but it's not a one-way street, right? I'm not teaching anything. If you learn something from the stream, that's a benefit, right? But if you really want to engage, you're more than welcome to. If you think I'm doing something wrong, if you think I'm designing something incorrectly or using a technology in the wrong way, call it out, right? That's the purpose of the stream, right? It's not about me being perfect or me being right. I'm not doing this because I'm on some sort of glory hunt or whatever. So anyone is more than welcome to have an opinion, as long as it's productive, right? If it's just name calling, that's not good. So that's not accepted. But yeah, I feel I have to say those things from time to time. It can't possibly be. Oh, because that's who I'm. Okay, because of who I am, right? Okay. So let's create a tenant. This tenant is going to be Kafka is great. The name is going to be F Kafka plus Kafka. Okay, so I'm going to send that. Oh no, not running. Why are you not running? Is running just one thing, and that does bring another problem around. I've got to do a bit more than just what I did. Oh no, this is a registration. It doesn't matter. Okay, this I don't need any authentication for to prove. So just to prove, I go to data and hit play. There's nothing there. Once the application is up and running and my full stack has started, we can verify this. Okay. Hopefully we get a little green badge. Things are starting up, maybe. There we go. Okay. So now I should be able to go to here and hit play. There's my user. Prove There's my ID not work. Settings, topics, variable string. See the maximum font size, awesome. There you go. Value. JSON. Okay. Visual Studio Code. Why did it take so long to return a response? Hi Kazumi, welcome. Which part? This part? Yeah. 11 seconds. Because the system was starting up. If I do this again, friendly thing. This is doing several things as well, so it's acceptable for it to take a little bit of time. 11 seconds is a bit excessive. It should take less than 2. Really? Bob Smith. Still taking a little while. Why is that taking a little while? So what that does is it first creates a tenant, it assigns an address, it creates a user, it adds the user to the tenant, and then it calls auth0 to register that user. At this point, that is very much serial, but that has to happen. So that taking a little bit of time, that's okay right now, right? That's something I can optimize later. But we should have a second user in there now. There you go. Approve. There you go. So that is publishing, again, verified false, right? That user has not been verified in auth0. So that from what I believe there is the auth0 part is just taking a little bit of time, the API. But now this user is present in the system, right? And similarly, tenants would have received those tenants as well, right? So now when I reassemble this on the side, right? There's Kafka is great. There's friendly thing, right? Now when I receive this on the other side, I can reconstitute these objects and store them in a view only manner. So yeah, in that case, there's a lot more going on than just storing an object in the database, right? And because of the way this works, right, the publishing part of this is an outbox. So he says with confidence, no, it's not an outbox right now. So those Kafka messages are going straight out to Kafka, so it's processing through. Eventually they will get something similar to this notification outbox where there is those messages get dumped into a queue, so that they won't have that communication challenge either. So if Kafka is not responding quickly, or there's a problem with the Kafka system, the system won't go down. It'll save those things. There we go. So that was relatively simple, right? To add that, I added the event in place already. I just needed to create the topic, create an integration event, wire those two things up in a handler, and there we go. It's working. So now I can consume that in other parts, and now I've got my users available to me as well. In terms of unit testing, do I want to unit test something like that? I probably should. So I won't call this done. I won't call this completely done because I should have unit tests there. I should say, okay, if the user doesn't exist, I get this behavior. If the user has, if I need to do any validation, etc. Bob Smith and Steve Smith are my favorite developers. Yeah. So that is a publishing user. Again, if you're just joining the stream, I am currently working on doing something like this. So I'm going to break out the data that I produce, publish it to Kafka, and store it in a database solely focused on the view. Right now, there's no UI to this system, but that will allow me to create one data store that is optimized for the read case, right, where all this information comes back together. So that is a consideration right now. Yeah. I haven't used much GraphQL because I think that the problem that I would normally fall foul of is these become my read and write databases, right? So in a world where I'm breaking up these into systems, right, GraphQL is impossible because I don't have that ability. If I rejoin all this information back together in a more readable form here, then yeah, I think GraphQL is something I definitely want to do a bit more with. I think that will give me the best option for that front end. But again, I've not used it effectively yet. So GraphQL is something I've always struggled with because I've worked in systems that have. That's kind of why I'm designing it this way. I've worked in systems that have read and write in the same data store, right? Because that's the way people develop systems, right? I add a record, I get a record, I add a record, I get a record. And I think the challenge there is very much one of, I now can't optimize for that read without affecting my write, or, so the disconnected system is going to create a bit of a challenge, but it's going to be, fun. So tomorrow, right? So unfortunately, this is the end of my stream today. My stream 7 or 9 Eastern, Monday to Friday, Wednesday through Friday, I stream this project. If anyone's interested, anyone in chat wants to, you're more than welcome to follow along. I'm always open to discussion about this project. This code is not open source. You're a noisy dog. Sorry, I get stressed hearing dogs, and the dog has just been barking constantly throughout the stream, so I apologize for any distraction. Yeah, you're more than welcome to follow along. This code is not open source, but I'm always open to opinions, to discussion. All the videos go up to YouTube, so there's links to YouTube in the panels below on Twitch, and obviously if you're watching on YouTube, hello. So all the videos for this series have gone up there. Yeah. In my opinion, it's not right to read and write from the same database in the system with this structure. With this structure, yes, it would be damaging, yeah. You have your tenant management, so you may create authorization layers and reveal it on the context API of your front end, like GraphQL run queries freely. Yeah. It's there's lots of possibilities. I know who you are. I know which tenant you're looking at. I can focus the data. I can pull that through. So yeah. This is making progress. Tomorrow, obviously these are obviously publishing already. Tomorrow we'll get onto planning items, notes, and tickets. Maybe fix up notes. And then when these are publishing, I can worry about what the consumption of these look like. And then we can tinker with other technologies. But that is the goal right now. And the reason I'm doing that is because I kind of want to concentrate on this particular slice of the pie, right? This is very much one I want to plan. Because if I get this piece in place, by the way, I can actually start using it to do my work through. So I can actually create a version that I run that actually consumes all this stuff and actually test it as I go. And there we go. And then I can hook the stream into it as well, so that you as a viewer are able to add those in. So I think that will help some of the interactivity and the fun with the application. Friday is fun day. Absolutely. Okay, so talking about delivering things, it looks like Fritz looks like he's online. I think we'll go raid him today. Reveal it to us and we can go ahead with our own front-end integration. Well, that will be a discussion in a long time. But if there's an application you're interested in, if you're interested in talking about the architecture, talking about design, etc., we are working on a simpler project on Stream that is more open. That is water, drink water. Right. For now, this application stays closed source because it is something that I want to make sure that I build out in a way that I'm controlling, and I don't want to necessarily open it up because then I have to worry about pull requests. Water, drink water is an application we're building in a very rough manner, so we can talk about things like architecture, design, etc. If you want to stick a UI on top of an API because you want to practice some UI stuff, you can do that. It's not a, hey, look, I know how to do it, here you go, here's all the right code sort of approach, but it is more of a, hey, look, we've really roughly put this together. How could we improve this? So it's aimed at being friendly from beginner to advanced, right? And more of a collaborative effort. So I do stream that on Mondays and Tuesdays. And thank you very much for the follow, Kazumi. I appreciate it. So let's go raid Fritz. I will be back again tomorrow. If you're interested, you're more than welcome to join Discord. I don't have many. Yeah. C#. So let's go raid Fritz, and I will see you again tomorrow, hopefully. So thank you very much. Take care. Have a great rest of your day, or a great end of your day, depending on where you are in the world. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you all. Bye.